The Sack Actun Cave tragedy, Amy Maria Arriaga's final dive. It was a bright Saturday morning, November 26, 2016, the kind of day where everything feels right. Clear skies, perfect temperature, and a sense of adventure. At the entrance of Mexico's legendary Sack Actun cave system, 23-year-old Amy Maria Arriaga stood ready, GoPro strapped on, excited for another dive. She had done this many times before. In fact, she had 47 cave dives under her belt. Confident, skilled, and passionate. Sack Actun wasn't just any underwater cave system. With over 163 kilometers of mapped passageways, it was the second longest underwater cave in the world. A limestone labyrinth that had fascinated explorers for centuries. The water temperature inside the cave held steady at 24 degrees Celsius, or around 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Ideal for what Amy had planned, a casual 2-hour dive. Everything looked perfect. Amy was leading the dive, with her mentor and master cave diver, Alessandro Ratto, following behind. He had over 500 documented dives and had trained Amy himself for 6 intense weeks leading up to this moment. They entered the water at exactly 11:26 a.m. Conditions were beautiful. The entrance pool shimmered with turquoise clarity, and visibility stretched up to 30 meters. Amy's excitement was visible through her mask as her fins kicked up clouds of soft limestone silt. Their goal? To follow the upstream guideline through the ancient winding corridors of the cave. About 25 minutes into the dive, Alessandro spotted something magical. A beam of sunlight piercing through a hidden hole in the ceiling, casting a surreal glow through the water. It was the kind of moment photographers dream about. To capture it, he turned off his dive lights to get that perfect silhouette shot of Amy. She was framed perfectly, gliding through the crystal clear waters. But in those few seconds of darkness, something shifted. Amy swam ahead. The tunnel split. 2 passages lay ahead. One veered left, gently pulling with the current. The other dipped into deeper, darker territory. She made a quick decision and chose left, the safer-looking one. Behind her, Alessandro was still fiddling with his camera and hadn't noticed. Amy waited, expecting the light signals, 3 flashes, that would warn of a wrong turn. Nothing came. She was alone, completely surrounded by darkness. She tried signaling back, 3 quick light flashes, but her backup light was failing, and the dark, mineral-rich water swallowed every flicker. The walls seemed to close in. Her breathing quickened, the steady hiss of her regulator becoming louder. Every exhale sent bubbles floating upward toward a ceiling she couldn't see anymore. Alessandro, meanwhile, had realized something was wrong. The space ahead was empty. Amy was gone. He began a meticulous sweep of the surrounding area, his lights slicing through the water. Nothing. No bubbles, no movement, just ancient limestone and silence. He made a decision, a fateful one. Believing she may have swum back, he started removing the safety line markers. At 11:57 a.m., the last marker came free. Nearly 200 feet away, in a black void that wasn't on any map, Amy floated silently. Her oxygen was running low. Her training told her exactly what was happening, but now knowledge wasn't enough. Her heart raced. She started to panic. And she knew exactly how much time she had. About 20 minutes, maybe less. By the time Alessandro surfaced at 12:45 p.m., Amy had already been missing for over 3 hours. The dive camp was in chaos. He scrambled for spare air tanks, but found none. Finally, at 2:13 p.m., a returning dive group lent him a fresh tank. With trembling hands, he descended back into the depths, this time placing bright orange markers on a new breadcrumb trail, hoping she might still be alive. But the math was brutal. Amy had 65 minutes of air. It had been over 180 minutes. At 2:27 p.m., Alessandro's light caught something near the entrance of no-name chamber, Amy's silhouette drifting, motionless. Her gear was still in place, her mask sealed, but her regulator had slipped from her lips. Her hands were frozen in a reaching position, as if grasping for a guideline that wasn't there. Her blonde hair floated like a halo. He initiated the rescue protocol, but he already knew she was gone. At 3:18 p.m., Alessandro emerged from the cave, holding her lifeless body. Police and cave rescue teams stood silently at the edge of the cenote. Amy Maria Arriaga became the 6th person to lose their life in Sack Actun. Her story is now a mandatory part of every cave diving briefing in the region. The Mayans believed these caves were sacred gateways to the underworld. That day, the cave reminded everyone why. The Ellison Cave tragedy, a drop into hypothermia. Fast forward to a wintry morning, February 12, 2011. Northern Georgia was gripped by freezing cold, but 10 students from the University of Florida were buzzing with excitement. They were heading into Ellison's Cave, the deepest cave east of the Mississippi River. This wasn't just a hike or sightseeing trip. This was real exploration. Ellison Cave's most infamous feature is the fantastic pit, a 586-foot vertical drop, enough to fit the Washington Monument with room to spare. It's been called the Empire State Building of pits. Sounds epic, right? Grant Lackenbach, a 20-year-old mechanical engineering student with a 4.0 GPA, led the group. With him was his best friend, Michael Perry. They'd bonded over extreme sports and adventure. Their plan was simple: descend into the cave, explore, and be back by evening. What they didn't know was that Ellison was about to test them harder than anything before. They reached the cave entrance at 11:15 a.m. It wasn't the grand entrance they expected, more like a crack in the earth. 2 feet wide, wet limestone edges, and ice-cold air flowing out. One by one, they squeezed in, unaware they were about to enter one of the most dangerous environments imaginable. At first, it was exciting. The cave was eerie but beautiful. White rock formations dangled like frozen daggers, but it was freezing. 42 degrees Fahrenheit inside, and they were wearing t-shirts and sneakers, not ideal. Then came the moment everything changed. Jenny Martinez dropped her backpack over the edge of the warm-up pit, a 125-foot vertical drop beside a roaring waterfall. Inside the backpack, food, flashlights, water, and other essentials. Grant made a quick call. "I'll go get it," he said confidently. He was experienced after all. At 12:20 p.m., he began the descent. The water crashing beside him sprayed near freezing mist. As he reached 75 feet, his rope jammed. He twisted to free it and swung directly into the waterfall's icy blast. "Help!" That's all he could scream. The others could barely hear him over the roar. Michael didn't hesitate. He clipped onto the same rope and began rappelling down. What he found was terrifying. Grant was hypothermic, slurred speech, clumsy hands, blue lips. At this point, Grant couldn't even grip the rope. Michael screamed for help, but within seconds, his own rope pinged, jammed. Now both were stuck. At 1:15 p.m., half the group raced out of the cave to find help. They ran down the mountain, covering an hour's hike in just 27 minutes. Inside, things worsened. The boys stopped shivering. That's the final stage of hypothermia. Their bodies had nothing left. The rescue team arrived at 3:05 p.m. They were professionals trained for this kind of emergency, but even they were pushed to their limits. The ropes had frozen to the boys' harnesses. The waterfall's spray had turned parts of their clothing into icy sheets. At 10:07 p.m., under floodlights, Grant and Michael's bodies were finally recovered. Their hands were still clutched tightly around the ropes. They'd held on to hope, to life, to each other, until the very end. Today, a sign at Ellison Cave warns of their story. Their deaths led to new safety rules, better training, and what's now known as the Grant and Michael Rule. No cave entry in cotton clothing, ever. The Lana Mills tragedy, when training turns fatal. Now to Montana, 2020. Lana Mills was 34. Passionate about marine biology, she had dreams of exploring the ocean's secrets. After diving in Australia's Great Barrier Reef, she signed up for advanced training in Lake McDonald, Montana. This wasn't tropical paradise. Lake McDonald is glacially fed, frigid cold, and 472 feet deep. For cold water diving, a dry suit is essential. Unlike a wetsuit, it keeps water out and lets the diver wear warm clothes underneath. But using a dry suit requires special training. You have to know how to add and release air properly. Mess it up, and your suit can inflate like a balloon, shooting you to the surface uncontrollably. Lana's instructors were supposed to teach her how to use this suit. Only something was wrong. She had bought a second-hand dry suit. It was missing a vital hose, the one that connects to the air tank, to keep the suit inflated properly. Without it, the deeper she went, the more the suit would squeeze her like a shrinking balloon. She asked her instructor about the missing piece. The response? Just use your BCD, your buoyancy control device. It was a critical mistake. That evening, around 5 p.m., they entered the water. The sun was already setting. No one had dive lights, no final equipment check. Another rule broken. At 60 feet deep, Lana was in trouble. Bob Gentry, another diver, noticed her signaling frantically. Her suit was compressing. She couldn't move. She couldn't breathe. Her face was full of panic. She slipped off a ledge deeper into the lake's darkness. Bob chased her down and caught up at 85 feet. Her suit was so tight she couldn't breathe. Her regulator dropped from her mouth. Bob tried everything, inflating her BCD, searching for weight releases, but nothing worked. He held on for as long as he could, but his own air was running out. He made the impossible decision to let go and return to the surface. Lana was later found at 128 feet, her body trapped by the very equipment that was supposed to protect her. Her gear told the full story. 44 pounds of weight, no quick-release system, no dry suit hose, and double the amount of weight a male diver would carry. It was a disaster waiting to happen. Even worse, after the accident, her instructor removed her dive computer and paperwork before authorities could see them. Crucial evidence gone. An investigation revealed a chilling truth. The instructor wasn't certified to teach dry suit diving. Lana's death could have been prevented with basic precautions and proper oversight. Her story is now told in diving schools as a cautionary tale. Not just about equipment, but about responsibility, training, and the very real risks. Even on routine dives, all of them ventured into what seemed like controlled, even routine environments. None of them came out. These weren't reckless thrill seekers. They were skilled, smart, and prepared, or at least believed to be. What connects their stories isn't just tragedy. It's the reminder that nature doesn't play by human rules. Whether in underwater caves, freezing pits, or alpine lakes, the environment has zero margin for error. Modern gear, expert training, GPS systems, none of it replaces respect for the elements. And when that respect slips, even for a moment, nature doesn't wait. If you're still watching, don't forget to subscribe for more real-life survival stories that don't just entertain, they teach and warn. Smash that like button if these stories gave you chills. And hit the notification bell so you never miss the next terrifying deep dive into real-world disasters.